Internets, you're listening to the Combat Jack Show. What's up, King?
How are you, man?
I'm doing great, man. Just, I don't even know when this episode comes out, man. We just did this. The Internets, this is what we did, man. For the past couple of weeks, man, we just stacked up interview upon interview upon interview upon interview. We came out the gates in 2017 swinging. So on top of this, it's my gig is serious. It's this other project I'm working on. So I don't even know. I don't even like. When,
so not the.
Will we still be in Black History Month, or is this going to be in March?
Man,
that's what I'm saying.
I think this is going to be in March.
Okay.
I think we got a couple of shows to drop, in the forthcoming weeks. So, this particular episode will be probably the first week of March, I want to say.
I'll tell you, man, it's a new year, man, but I'm already exhausted. I've been running, and on top of that shit, just every day, man, this consistent assault from this PMERT administration, man. You know what I mean? It's just every day it seems like it's a competition to see how they can out-evil themselves. You know what I mean? I mean, if this sounds dated, just today, they appointed
the education
DeVos. They fucking she's running education.
So there was a tie. It was 50-50.
And then fucking
Mike Pence.
The whole Dakota
pipeline,
access pipeline. It's too much. It's just like, it's like an assault. It's like shock and awe.
And then meanwhile, you have Iran and China firing off test missiles as a threat, as a warning. Like, listen,
it's just a lot going on, man. And like I said before, man, we've had some great guests leading up to this episode, but it's really important. As much as we stay vigilant and as much as we continue to fight, man, it's also really important, man, to protect your mental and your spiritual health. You know what I'm saying? Because we can't, there's other soldiers in this. As long as we continue to speak out, man, take some time, man. You know what I'm saying? Go smoke that L with your boo-boo. You know what I'm saying? Go see a movie. You know what I mean? Go do something, man. But don't let this shit consume you. You know what I mean? Anyway.
How do you stay abreast? Like, how do you maintain your sanity?
It's funny, man. After, like, the second week of this motherfucker in office, I kind of pulled out. So every now and then, I can't help it. I look at Twitter and the headlines, jump up. But you know who I like to filter my news from is our girl Genghis Kells,
yes.
KMGZ, because she has a great way on her timeline of talking about the current events, but she's also bringing humor or the stupidity, or you know what I'm saying, just so it just softens the blow of it. But I mean, as much as I'm tired because I'm fucking busy, I'm less tired because I'm busy, because I'm not consumed by the timeline. I'm not consumed by the headlines.
Right.
And this it's like, it's like you always got to look to see what kind of fuckery he's on. So
I saw you tweet him earlier this morning.
Oh, this morning? Yeah, he was talking about some shit. Well, do you know? I think he was talking about, who was he talking about? What was the tweet? I think he was criticizing the judge that put the stay on the ban or some shit, or
so-called judge.
No, it wasn't that. It wasn't that. But I was like, well, do you know you have fucking baby hands?
Yo, the ill shit is when Trump actually responds to somebody clapping at him. Like, that's going to be epic as shit.
You're not allowed to say his name on the show.
Sorry. PMERT.
Trump spells backwards. It's PMERT. You know what I mean?
PMERT.
We have a guest in the house today, man. We got Miss Alexa Layton, the lovely Miss Alexa Layton.
Hi, guys.
You've been doing amazing work on Dinnerland.
Oh, thank you.
Visually, you're always stunning. Pull that. We have these new microphones. Shout out to Rode microphone. Are you still doing the podcast? Tell us about the podcast.
Yes, I'm still doing the podcast. I'm gonna make it like, I'm not advanced like y'all. You know what I'm saying? This is
advanced like who?
Like y'all.
Advanced doing what? You didn't hear me and King arguing in the hallway about how we're not advanced. What are you talking about?
No, you guys. It's actually kind of hard to do a weekly, for it to be on time.
Really?
For me,
yeah. Do you think so? Like, listen, I want to get a response from all the podcasters out there that are doing this weekly. Is this shit easy or not? Y'all motherfuckers came in this game thinking this shit was gonna be easy, right? Huh?
Yes. No, it's hard. It's just like getting, just making sure guests, you know what I'm saying, hold up to their end of the bargain and show up on time.
It's hard though.
It's just hard to keep the guests. You know what I'm saying? Like, from postponing.
But do you, tell us the name of your show?
The Alexa Layton Show.
The Alexa Layton Show.
Mm-hmm.
I'll tell you this. You're still young in the game. and I hate that the Combat Jack show we kind of cornered ourselves into this. Don't be dependent on guests if you don't have to.
That's what I'm learning. Yeah. And especially with my co-host Julius. Shout out to Julius. We just been coming up with more creative ways to just kind of do our own thing if we don't have a guest. And we got a couple ideas right now. Dropping soon. We got some just new and fresh ways to kind of do the show without having to depend on anyone's interviews.
Yo, what kind of cat is Julius? I see him getting a lot of burn right now on social media. He's been in the studio.
Amazing.
He looks like he looks like he could be like an evil genius, or he's just a fucking weirdo.
No, Julius is he's weird, but
Okay.
he's amazing.
And no shots, Julius, but you do look like a fucking weirdo.
Weird. I love him.
But,
He's
okay.
super funny.
Okay.
He's super whimsical and charismatic, and he's just amazing. He's just like a character. He's somebody that you won't meet twice.
Is
in your life.
this somebody that we all need to keep our eyes on?
Yes, of course.
Okay.
If you haven't already, definitely. Funny. It's at Funny Julius on Twitter. He's like Twitter famous. Like, how do you not know?
Yeah, I definitely follow him. And then tell us what's going on with Dinnerland.
Dinnerland's got a bunch of exciting new things happening. I'm actually coming out with a new series on Dinnerland soon. But
Own series?
I'm not gonna say the name or anything.
Now let me
yet.
ask you something. Did you create it or did Shake create it?
Shake created it. No, Shake created it. And then Shake, me and Shake met like last year, and he said he just, liked my presence, and he liked the way I conduct myself, and he wanted me to be a host. And I was like, sure, let's do it.
No, but this next show that's coming out, did you?
Oh, no. Oh, this one is my idea.
Okay.
Yes, the show that's coming out is my idea. I think all of you will like it, actually. I think it's going to be... I don't want to say too much. We start filming next month, like towards the end of next month. So I'll just leave it as a surprise.
Now, I'm really impressed by the work that Dinnerland does. I really like the look. I like the aesthetic. I like the sound. I like how he's able to take a lot of content, or they're able to take a lot of content and they break it down for the cats that have ADD, and I'm actually kind of glad that I have a little run on their show right now. Anyway, welcome to the Combat Jack Show. You ready to do this?
Yes, thank you.
Internets, we've been on a tear recently. We've been, it's bigger than rap. I mean, we got some amazing guests. We've had the Locks recently. I'm saying next episode, can I let them know who it is?
I think we posted it already.
What, Ice Cube? We let them know he's gonna have Ice. I was just gonna say.
Drop the ball.
No, we're not having Ice Cube. I didn't say that. But we there's a lot of shit going on, man. And ever since we started this show 7 years ago, I always told y'all, man, this is deep and this is bigger than rap. And I think if there's ever been a time when we had to use our platform to really fight against injustice, not against just black people, but everyone, because right now everybody's in the fight, and I think it's waking everybody's eyes up, man. And one of the things I didn't know I was so passionate about was really speaking really sincerely about the shit that's going on. And even if that makes a change in what's going on, then I think we're doing our job here. But this young man right here, he was supposed to be on the show last year, but we had some issues with our scheduling and our programming. But he's done some amazing stuff, man. He's a former Baltimore member of the Baltimore Police Department, retired, and then has used his platform starting off on Twitter, correct?
Yeah, Twitter blow up. Yeah.
Starting off on Twitter and really doing something that you see rare, in our country today. He just really started speaking about, just the injustices that he saw and experienced and witnessed as a former member of the Baltimore Police Department. And he started a movement, and I noticed that his movement is growing. He's a veteran of the Marine Corps. So, he talks about humanity and empathy, and because there's so much inhumanity going on right now, we felt that he'd be the perfect guest to have on the Combat Jack Show for this episode. So let's welcome to the Combat Jack Show, Mr. Michael A. Wood, Jr.
Oh, thanks. It's such a weird introduction. Are we going to like any fake claps or anything?
Yeah.
There we go. Something like that.
What's up, Michael?
Well, my last leg of my East Coast life.
Yo, don't fucking throw it in our face. Don't rub it in our face that you're moving
to
LA,
so
man.
Cold out there. And I was my shoes were soaked today. There was that cold 40-degree rain, which is like the worst.
Today was fucking cold, dude.
Right. And so I was just like, even though my feet were wet, I was like, I know that this is a limited thing.
Experience.
So I'm okay with it.
You're still rubbing it in our face, though, right? You're moving out to LA this month.
Right. And really for the whole building the platform is essentially, I kind of agree with you wholeheartedly that what our kind of responsibility here is now is to build platforms so that other people can step up on those platforms in order to have their voice heard, and we'll continue to build that. And while you do it in an educational aspect, I'm trying to do the same thing in an action aspect, where if you have something like the Lakota Sioux who need to stand up, then I want to make sure I build a platform where their voice gets heard, where we have a Black Lives Matter rally and the voice of the community is getting heard, not the voice of some chief or some mayor or something that wants to come in and say what that neighborhood is like, that has no goddamn clue what that neighborhood is like.
Well, we need to go in and clean it up.
Right, clean it up.
Law and order.
It's so bad. It's like you clearly don't know these places
right.
if you think this is a place of evil. This
right.
is a place of hope and a place where people will struggle and not have anything but still coalesce together and manage to survive. A place where after the uprising, everyone got together and had cookouts and cleaned up the entire scene. But nobody sees that, right? No one's going to capture that and let you know about it. So we have to build those platforms so people do know about it.
Being a former police officer in Baltimore, let's speak on that because I know New York, I know Brooklyn. I'm from Brooklyn, and I know, like, even in the hottest spots in Brooklyn, because I'm a native, there's a sense of appreciation that I could really enjoy, a sense of pride. Like, shit might be fucked up on this block, but this is still, look what Brooklyn has become. Like, did you get that sense, like working the streets of Baltimore and saying this is not, as much as we paint this as, like, as much as The Wire paints this as this place, this dystopian place, as much as our president paints the inner cities as this fucked up place, was it like that?
So, growing up in essentially a mixed race neighborhood, but out in the rural area where you kind of, they have that anti-city mentality that kind of goes throughout the zeitgeist of the whole thing. I had that corrupt mind when I went in, that you were there to regulate and enforce. But it was when I was a narcotics detective that I ended up being in the community in certain areas for like 14 or 15 hours for the day before the drug dealers got up and after they left and set up shop. But you saw the community for what it really was.
You saw people taking their kids to school.
I saw the drug dealer taking his kid to school.
The same guy that you was. That's crazy.
Or shutting down shop so that his little brother would go be able to get on the bus, or when all the bus got out and the kids went through the neighborhood, that street lieutenant was the one that made sure the kids didn't actually see the drug dealing and were protected and sheltered from everything. And so it became clear that if being a narcotics detective, when I did my job, which my job was to take that dude off the street, that I was without question going to make life worse for one of those little boys or make it more dangerous for that person. So it was like, I'm not even in here to help. This is a community that is struggling, but it's clearly struggling because they have a lack of resources and they're all improvising to get past these lack of resources, and I'm going to come in and take away what goddamn resource there was.
But you just hit it on the head, and I'm not at all championing crime. I'm not at all championing drug dealers, although I have a bigger issue with why drugs aren't decriminalized in the first place. But when you see this monster or this quote unquote monster, this opponent of yours that you're supposed to take down, and when you see him in the sunlight in a human manner, what does that do to you, man?
Well, it does make. I guess I'm a hypocrite anyway because I never believed in the drug war as it was.
Of course.
But I wanted the action and the chase. So I kind of had the idea that the drug dealer could run, get in a car, and we could go on a chase, and I could catch him, and I felt like I could put the handcuffs on and be like, all right, bet, we'll play this game again tomorrow. I win this time, maybe you win next time. Like, you don't see the end, right? So it was
It's like this Tom and Jerry, like, just loop.
Sure.
Right.
And then it was at the end that I think things really got different when I got out of policing and I met ex-cons, and they kind of, I put myself to be subject to their understanding so that they could lash out a little bit. They needed to talk to a cop and kind of let those off. But then you see the other side. Police never see the other side, what it does to you. Like, there's this dude, Boom, in Baltimore, who a nonviolent guy completely gets in there for drugs, and he ends up being in solitary confinement for 3 years because you end up beefing with shit and stuff in there. But this dude, you go in there on a bullshit charge because maybe you're distributing flowers to your friends who would like some more flowers as well, not harming a single soul. And we end up as a society saying that we're going to put you in a metal box that's small and confine you and treat you like an animal, and then say that person's the bad person.
Meanwhile, everybody's smoking flowers.
Right.
Meanwhile, everybody's about to get rich in the flower business, in the marijuana industry. But because these guys, then they were born at the wrong time or they're in the wrong place, they're the ones that are going to be our monsters. They're the ones that are designated as the monsters.
Yeah, I mean, you have to have that's. So we were kind of skipping around a little bit, but after
We are skipping the fuck around, man.
after I got out of the police department, when I first started my reforms, I thought we were relatively unprofessional, and so I got into having my degree in criminal justice, and then it just didn't really seem right. The criminal justice degree didn't. I got my master's in business management, and looking at how the metrics and incentives are all misaligned and completely wrong. So then you start to get an idea of what policing is, and we discussed this right beforehand, that as I did my PhD work and got further into it, it was like, what's really clear is that policing only does three things. And it's the creation and maintenance of an oppressed class, which I would have said slave class, but I'm trying to temper my language now.
But that's what it originated in terms
Right.
of maintaining the
Right. So
property,
this
which
goes-
was the slave class.
Right.
Protecting the property, which was the slaves.
Right, so this is the first time Boston police
Right.
were the ones that started doing this. So we think of the North as being safe, but some of the first police officers that wear that first safe badge were the slave patrol in Boston, who literally took freed slaves who got to the North free, arrested them, took them back to the South so that they could be slaves again. And we, and the North still wants to paint itself as a
Right.
hero. So you ended up doing that. The second phase is the protection of or valuing property of the elites over the lives of American citizens.
Right.
And what I used to say on that was the protection of elite and white property. But now I've tempered my language so that the conservatives can help that. And the other is the continued genocide of the Native American people. And you'll always see police going towards that avenue in any way, shape, or form that they do. No matter what you tell me the police are do, I'm going to be able to tie it into one of those three things. And that's why you have something like Standing Rock that just clearly encapsulates all three of those issues.
Let's go back a little bit, man. You come from Baltimore. You grew up in anti-urban area, or?
Well, yeah, I mean, the suburbs are typically that way, at
Right.
least in Maryland, that they kind of view the city as this dangerous place, which it's even statistically, it's not. I don't
Right.
know if a lot of people know that. If you're not involved in the game, your odds of being shot in Baltimore walking through the hood are the same as walking through Iowa.
Right.
If you're not beefing with anybody,
If
nobody's there to
if
beef
you're
with you.
clean, 9 out of 10, nothing's going to happen to you.
Right, nothing's going to happen.
Right.
And I forget where I was even going with that.
Well,
thought.
did you have any interaction with black kids when you were growing up, or black people?
No, I lived in a mixed race neighborhood.
Okay.
So I mean, it just had that kind of anti-city feel to
Right.
it. One of my big mistakes was growing up in assisted housing and in mixed races is that I was race blind. So I tried to make myself that intentionally in policing. I thought the good cop would be the one who is race blind, does the law equally and fairly, and goes where they're
I don't
assigned.
see race.
Right. So that was actually what blinded me.
Right.
Because once you start you have to pay attention
You have
to
to
the race,
right.
because that's what our entire system is directed towards enforcement on a few particular groups of people. And it's like, well, even if I'm being impartial, this system is steering me here.
But I would even imagine, just on a broader scale, when I meet somebody, I want to, and they're different. I'm intrigued by their background. Like, I want to know what their culture is. I want to know what their food. I want to know how the women or how the men and the women interact, what their music is. So I can't afford to be colorblind. You know what I mean? I think that's such a soulless thing to promote. Like, I'm colorblind because it's like I don't see you, or I see you as a shade of me.
And you're not seeing what the person has to
The
go
totality,
through because,
right.
It's a categorization. Race is a social construct. It didn't exist 100 years ago.
Right.
It didn't even exist. It was created in the late 1800s, so, just around 120 years or so. So it's something that white supremacy has put on you as a label, and it's not anything any of us have to follow. It's not a real goddamn label. It's the people that wear red shirts and the people that wear blue shirts. There's nothing actually to it.
Right.
So I mean, that's what blackness is from originally. That's why Italians and the Irish were also considered black, because it's that which stands against white supremacy. They
Right.
label as black.
Well, it's funny, man, because I was reading something a couple of years ago about like the Irish uprising. And I just remember looking at like the pay scale, and the black dude was getting like maybe 50 cents more than the Irish. And they were like, fuck this. And they fought their way. They fought their way. They terrorized their way. And I'm not talking negatively about the Irish people, but they really fought their way into whiteness, which is crazy.
Right. Instead of being, joining and rallying with the.
They were like, "There's no fucking way I'm getting paid less
It's like
than a black
leaving the
person."
hood and leaving it alone.
Yeah, they're not.
leaving it behind.
They fought because they could not accept getting paid lower than the black person, which is crazy. So you grew up in a family, man. You grew up in a police family, right?
No, I had friends that were police.
Okay.
I was the first cop. I just grew up with a single mom, so it was just me and my mom growing up in a mixed race neighborhood. So
what drives you to join the Marines, man?
I didn't have my shit together. So
What do you mean by that, man?
I mean, I wasn't mature enough to go to college. Like,
Okay.
I knew I was.
He's fucking around.
He's
hanging around a lot of flowers, man.
So I mean, might have been hanging around too many flowers,
Okay.
too many other things,
Okay.
too many women or something like that.
Right.
I knew I wouldn't have had it.
Was you
together.
getting anybody knocked up? Did you have to go to the Marines because you got somebody knocked up?
Can
Michael?
you still do the fifth? Is the fifth
You
legal?
can
It's
plead,
not a big
yeah,
deal.
you plead.
Okay. So I mean, not at the time, no.
Right.
But I thought that was a way out, and that's really what society sells you. Is when you are a poor kid, they sell you this program that is somehow honorable to be trained to go kill brown people in the seas of the Middle East to get war profits for the few elite, oil pipes going through. And so we see that now. But I mean, I fell for that thing too, so I could go to college and get out of there.
So wait a minute. Did you want to be patriotic, or did you want to? Because I know people that have gone into the military, and it's because their financial situation was fucked. And they were in debt, and they didn't have any way to get higher education. They're like, yo, if I go into the fucking Army, if I go into the fucking Marines, I'll get a new lease in life. So was it being patriotic or getting a new lease in life, or both?
Not patriotic at all.
Okay.
Totally about that. And I mean, I chose a job I wanted to pursue. I did combat arms, and I wanted to do a FAST team, which is an anti-terrorism unit.
What's combat arms, man?
So each person that actually fights in a war or in the military, there's 9 people in support. The vast majority of the military just supports a few people that actually fight.
Right.
And so I wanted to be one of the ones that actually fight, and not the ones that actually do just that. I wanted to be the ones that did the cool shipboard stuff and the landings and all that. So I was doing it for the adrenaline and the paycheck of being able to go to college.
Where were you stationed?
So primarily out of Yorktown, Virginia, which is where the FAST team is, and then I went to Japan, Alaska, Hawaii. We were a forward deployed unit, so we didn't have to do much. We didn't do actual fighting anyway because we were like a SWAT team for the rest of the Marine Corps. So you can't just go fight a war and then forget that you have embassies somewhere else.
Exactly.
So you gotta still we did the rest of the stuff.
So did you see action?
No, we never.
We never
just
saw action.
So our group almost never sees action because by the time you called us in, we're the kind of, okay, this shit's over.
Right.
So even when the FAST teams do land, usually everybody's like, all right, shit's over, and you're done.
I gotta shout out my girl Genghis Kells, KMGZ on Twitter, because she's a former Marine, and I just every now and then when I read into her tweets, I get an insight as to just the discipline and the training and actually the honor that she has for the armed forces. Can you talk about the training and how rigorous as a Marine?
Well, yeah, it was hard.
No fucking kidding.
It's supposed to be.
Right.
It was very proficient. Like, I'll give one good example is being in a SWAT type environment. We had it's called close quarters battles where you go through and you shoot live rounds and kind of move through a building because combat is urban now.
Right.
And when we would do that, if you so much as passed your muzzle across anyone that you weren't supposed to shoot, good guy or bad guy, your own team members, you're out of the school. Right. You're done. You didn't make the cut. In the police department, you're lucky if they can hit the broadside of a barn. Like, there is no training whatsoever. And so with the group of people that I had in the Marine Corps, I was highly confident at all times that every single one of them could pick up their function and operate extremely well.
It's funny also because one of the things that I learned reading on her timeline, particularly with, just this outbreak of police brutality, she actually saw, she was stationed in Afghanistan, and she saw, some action, and she was like, even there, in Afghanistan as occupiers, you know what I mean, in a different country where you don't even understand the language, it's so much more difficult.
How's that even different than really Baltimore or even New York?
Yeah,
a white kid from the urban environment is not even speaking the same language.
Exactly. So and there's IEDs and there's all types of things that the fear and the adrenaline is ratcheted up. But she was saying for you to fire your gun on a foreign citizen, you have to go. They have to be firing at you, right?
Right.
You have to really be.
We had to be fired upon to return fire.
Right. So she couldn't even understand how here in the States, none of you can operate on the premise of fear.
Yeah, it's solely fear. So your legal basis, which is established, I don't know, it might have been a Wardlow case, I don't remember, where that is the case. It's just, was the officer's fear reasonable? And then we go back, and this is the whole officer's case in Baltimore, where it really exposed the whole problem, is that legally we have determined that a cop can do whatever is determined to be reasonable. Now, this should mean reasonable to you.
To everybody.
But we've codified it to be reasonable to other police officers. So now what happened with trying to get justice for Freddie Gray was that they essentially proved in court that these officers, who are pawns in a system, that none of them followed the rules, so that reasonable they classified as normal. Normal was not following the rules, so therefore it was reasonable
because
to
it was
these other cops
they're
to not follow the rules.
Which is crazy.
It's unbelievable.
Right.
I mean, of course you can't say, like, if we go commit crimes together and we say that the standard is going to be whether you think I did the crime reasonably or not, like, yeah, we're going to side with each other every single time.
Yeah. So in a sense, to justify these injustices, we're constantly lowering the bar.
Right, so it's whatever is reasonable to another cop.
Right.
So then you obviously becomes, well, what happens when the majority of cops are unreasonable? Then you've codified unreasonable behavior.
Yo, that's crazy talk, man.
It's the truth.
That's crazy talk.
Psychotic.
It's crazy talk, right?
Makes no sense.
You come back home, right? And what makes you join the force?
I mean, so I always wanted to be a cop when
Right.
I was growing up.
Because of the adrenaline.
I wanted to
the chase, right?
Right. And if you're going to do that, where do you do that?
Did you watch
Baltimore,
a lot of TV or was it video games?
Sure,
man?
like cops and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Well, it's not video
What's your
games. You know
favorite-
what's one thing that's funny about video games is ever since violent video games have been introduced, crime has gone down dramatically.
It was everybody smoking weed and playing the games.
And yet we talk about it's the enemy,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
It's like it's completely against all evidence
Yeah,
that it's
yeah.
the enemy. And if you think about it,
I didn't know that, though.
like even if you have some kinky, weird sexual fantasy,
Yeah.
is it weird to try and enact that in real life, or is it better to go ahead and do that in virtual reality and not have a victim?
I would want to do it in real life, man. I'm sorry.
Okay, for
So let's
society,
not talk
is
about
it better?
sex. Sex got to be real, B.
For society,
Right, of course.
Right. You know, so you'd want to do something like that. It should be the way it is.
So you join the force, man, and what's your initial like experience? Like they put you into the hood, right?
I going through this weird circle is my first place where I was stationed was on foot, because they like to say that they have community control by putting foot officers there.
Right.
You took a white kid from the county that you already trained to kill brown people, and you put him in a neighborhood he doesn't understand,
Right.
and you somehow think that that's not occupation or that's community policing.
Right.
Of course it wasn't. So I was relatively unsupervised for about 6 months.
How did it feel being out there? Did it feel like shit? Like they put me out in the jungle?
No, it felt like it was going to have fun.
Okay.
He's a crazy white boy.
Wait,
What do you mean?
How so? What kind of fun?
Right, so we would just, since we were relatively unsupervised, the only thing we could think of to do was go after drug dealers.
Right.
So we would break into like the public housing, because you know they keep the heat on, right?
Right.
So you could go in there in wintertime.
Project Heat.
Yeah, you could not freeze your ass off.
Right.
So you break into public housing in a vacant, and you would just start watching people sling. And go down and lock them up, because that's all we could do. And they wanted us to have a stat, because they say, "What did you do today?" They didn't say, "Did you meet any of the neighbors?" They say, "How many people did you lock up?
Right.
How many
How many
citations
arrests? Right.
did you get?" So you have to do that to prove of what you were doing.
Like
so
a
that's
quota, right?
right, totally.
Yeah.
So
That's-
wait a minute, wait. Let me rewind this back. So basically, you and your partner were figuring it out as you were, as you're figuring it out as you're on the job.
Totally. So I was with another. I essentially usually would partner up with another Marine,
Right.
Eric, who we could trust one another.
You made that happen.
Right. We did it on purpose.
Okay.
So we could stay together,
Right.
and trust one another to do these things just fine.
Which actually makes sense, because at least you guys had the sense and the training
And he grew up in the city, so
to know how to approach. He grew up in the city, but like at least for you, you had somebody that was familiar with the terrain, and so you felt safe.
yeah. I mean, I was always safe. I was the one that had the gun, dude.
Right.
You
And
know,
but you,
like,
also,
I don't
but you
know
know what?
to talk
But
about.
but Michael, let's talk about, you got a lot of people with guns that don't feel safe. We got to also talk about the training that you had.
Sure. I mean, so I did semi arrogantly, we can go ahead and say. So on the records, coincidentally, I ended up tied with another Marine, But we are my academy class, this Marine Jerry and I are the highest scoring shooters in the history of Baltimore Police Department.
Really?
So think about that. It's 200 and some years. We're the highest shooters, and I'm telling you, I was an average shooter.
Right. In
with
the Marine,
with the rest
in
of
the Marine
my
Corps, yeah.
with the rest of my guys. So you have that entire lack of any of those abilities to handle that weapon. So I always thought, look, I'll be honest, if Ray from the Hood beats me in a gunfight, I feel like it's my fault. Nobody to blame but myself.
Right.
So if he beat me to the draw and put an accurate shot on me, I think I'd be sitting there like, motherfucker, I got nobody to blame but me.
Yeah.
So that's I think military members, especially combat arms, they're not the ones doing these shootings because they're not afraid. They're weapons proficient, and you're just not going to get that kind of weapons proficiency in that. That bullshit of maybe 40 hours that they learn how to shoot their weapon.
How do you compare the training of the Marine Corps to the training of the police department?
Well, I mean, it's impossible comparison, really, because the Marine Corps actually will try to set up an achievable mission. There's no achievable mission in policing. If you say, what would you want police to do? Well, that's not what police are doing. And if they say what they're trying to do is they're going to say they're trying to lower crime. Well, if you're trying to lower crime, you would fight the things that cause crime. There's no police agencies that are fighting the goddamn things that cause crime. So if somebody robs a bank here, you would think the police would say, hey, why did this guy rob the bank? What can we do to prevent this in the future? But all police do is try to figure out the details of the crime so they can lock the person away, doing nothing to prevent the next goddamn bank robbery. In fact, making it so that person that did rob the bank will now go into a system where his resources are depleted further, he's marginalized further, and now comes back more likely to rob the goddamn bank.
It's almost, what I'm saying? It's almost, and I'm not saying that the police department is a cancer, but it's almost like a cancer in that.
No, it is. So all progress. So New York has legendary crime reduction, right? So you have achieved this not because of policing, but despite policing. Because the reason you had the crime drop here was that New York public health system attacked lead poisoning more than any other city in the entire country. Lead poisoning is the strongest correlate to violent crime that we have.
Yes.
So in the 70s, your public health department had a huge effort to eradicate lead.
My cousin had lead poisoning. That motherfucker was crazy.
22 years later, it's gonna be crazy.
And no, he's been in prison, in and out of prison since the motherfucking 70s.
Right.
He's fucking crazy.
That's what it does to you.
Yeah.
So if you were actually trying to lower
crime,
is that
why those motherfuckers were crazy in the 70s?
Well, that in the 90s it died off. So in the 70s,
in the 80s,
right? So in the 72 or 73, they took lead out of the gas.
Right.
So that's when it stopped affecting everybody. That's why white neighborhoods start to have less, because they had white flight, went out to the counties. They now have PVC piping. So in the cities, you still have lead paint, and you cluster marginalized communities and redline them into environmentally poisoned areas with lead paint and lead Flint, Baltimore, all these areas, and then the children are poisoned, so they end up committing crimes because they were poisoned. If you wanted to stop crime, you'd fight lead poisoning.
Right, that's kind of crazy.
It's crazy. What does that mean for Flint now?
It means 22 years from now, they're going to have a violent crime problem if the people are still there. Write it down. I mean, we have this down to the blocks. In New York City, you can they graft it down to the block. You can track and see how the crime rates fluctuate by this amount of poisoning down to the block.
That is insane.
It's insane. Look it up.
Because,
I mean, you could just put it up.
From now,
22 is the way they do it.
22 years from now, there's gonna be a spike in crime in Flint, and they're just gonna be like, "Oh, law and order. Let's just lock these niggas up."
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? When you poison these people, you literally poisoned this whole town and didn't do anything about it, and just hushed. They closed the case. But there's people in Flint still don't have clean water.
That's crazy. So wait a minute. So broken windows. That's bullshit.
It's complete bullshit. I mean,
I already know Rudy Giuliani is fucking bullshit.
Right, total bullshit.
Yeah.
So even now, Oakland just hired a police chief that believes in broken windows policing.
Really?
And this was literally disproven. We know this in the literature. Not only is it ambiguous, we can say it does not work. Right. I mean, even here, there's the great anecdote here is when the police said, "Oh, I want to sit here and we're not going to do anything. If they don't want us to enforce laws, we're all going to enforce the most mandatory ones," and crime dropped. It's like, yeah, dude. You're only supposed to enforce laws when it's the last resort.
Right.
Duh.
So when I said earlier that it's a cancer, man, and I heard you talking about this on the Rogan show, which was a great episode, man. It's like, do we not want crime to go away?
No, we don't, because that feeds the war complex. So if you can't keep making Humvees for soldiers to use if you don't have anywhere to put them. So you need new ones, so you take the old ones and you give them to the police department so you can keep making new ones. I mean, this is all money making. This is capitalism. This is what we are. So, I mean, policing is those three things, not because police are those three things, but because America is those three things.
Right. That's scary, man. That's like, so the worst day on this planet is if people wake up and it's like, there's no fucking crime. Like, America would go crazy.
I mean, we know how to do that,
Right.
though. We almost
We
completely
know how to eliminate crime.
Right. So if we stop the drug war, you're going to end 80% of crime right off the bat.
Right, because the drug war is bullshit also.
Complete bullshit. So, I mean, the most violent time in American history was during Prohibition.
Yes.
And now we have the lingering Prohibition.
I mean, well, I would say the last most dangerous period in the U.S. was the crack era.
crack epidemic.
Yeah, the crack epidemic. And we're talking about the 80s, 90s.
But it's not because of the crack. It's because of how we respond to it by treating people like they're fucking animals because they have a
you had
plant
some
derivative in it.
you had some psychopaths out here in the streets too, though. Back in the day,
right? But
they might have had that lead in them, though.
But the thing we got to really look
and
at.
then they put lead in people, but
sure, one way to put it. We get lead poisoning as an irony paradox there.
Yeah.
But we always have to look at it that when you put somebody in prison, it's to protect society from them, not to punish them.
Right.
We should always be finding a way to get them rehabilitated back in society, even if they stay in prison.
Right.
Because if you think about it, if say you got some 18-year-old kid that does some heinous thing, and we decide we're going to protect society from him from forever, there's no reason he needs to be in a tiny cell. He can be in a place that has food and yards and outside
and education.
And
higher
you
education.
can send him to be a PhD. He can become a scholar, and he can contribute to society.
He could discover the cure to cancer behind the walls.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I always thought prisons should be like therapy centers where you go and you get rehabilitated and you have a therapist every day, so a counselor, somebody that can talk to you, you know what I'm saying, figure out why you committed the crime, why whatever it is you're going through. And you shouldn't, like, it should be, honestly, it should be like when celebrities go to rehab and they have like big ass pools and freaking masseuse, and
they need therapy. They don't need to be punished.
Right. They just need guidance.
Right.
They just need guidance, basically.
I'm all over the place with this, man. But like when you hear America sing its virtues about how we're the land of the just and we're so sophisticated, when you compare us to other countries, man, where do we fall, man?
I mean, we do like to say that, like we're a home of the free. We're certainly not the freest country, and it's just like,
what would you say is the freest country, man?
I mean, you're probably somewhere in the Netherlands and Sweden, Switzerland, something like that, because they have socialized health care.
They're socialists.
Yeah, I mean, and they pay like 50-60% in taxes, and they love it because they don't pay for doctors, they don't pay for
education,
school, they don't pay for any of this stuff, and anybody has a potential to fulfill themselves. So the idea of America is that if you put in the hard work, you have a level playing field. Well, that's patently untrue in this country. I don't know if there's a place where you have less of an even playing field than here.
Why do we have such a negative view of socialism?
Because that's how they did the whole Cold War thing, is blaming it on socialism when it's not. I mean, like, just because Stalin was a socialist doesn't make socialism bad. You know, Stalin might have worn black clothes. It doesn't make black clothes black.
Yeah,
It's because people are greedy. You know, people are greedy. People don't want to be. People don't want to be. Well, this is my theory. I think people don't want to be socialists because they don't want to be equal. Like, everyone doesn't want to be.
They don't want a level playing field.
Right. It's like people have this mentality. I need to have more money than you. I need to have more access to better things than you. You know what I'm saying? Like, this person, why am I on the same playing field as this person? I need to be up here. I need to have this nice car.
I don't understand. You know what? I'm not trying to paint. I don't understand that.
I don't understand it either.
Because if we're all good, I don't have to watch my fucking back.
Right. People don't realize that we can all live nice lives and be happy.
Well,
and
poverty is a man-made. Like,
well, why did white supremacy exist, though? So that they didn't have to do work.
Exactly.
And other people could do the damn work. So we've kind of like put into white society that white doesn't have to do the same amount of work
at the
as
same time, but
everybody
there's
else.
this ideology of pulling themselves up by the bootstrap, and I did it on my own.
Right, but they don't, you know, and I get in arguments with them about that because even if you're a business owner, it's just like, yo, I mean, look at the street you're driving on. Did you pay millions of dollars for that street? Like, you're never going to pay taxes for the amount of street you drive on.
Right.
So, like, somebody else, especially if you take, you know, poor neighborhoods that can't do all the tax write-offs. So like, one of the big tragedies in Baltimore, they had this example on North Avenue. There's a lady who lives just a few blocks away from that CVS. She pays $1,200 a year in property taxes, obviously getting shit worth of community services and everything else. And then here you have Under Armour and Kevin Plank getting a $600 million tax break, not having to pay any goddamn taxes. The Hilton doesn't pay taxes. All these big constructs in Johns Hopkins don't pay taxes. But there's some lady, and they get all the services, but there's some damn lady that's been working her ass off her entire life on North Avenue in the hood who pays taxes and doesn't get shit. So it shows that regression, everything is a regressive tax where we just keep punishing the poor so that they don't have to do it. They want the poor to keep doing it. That's why Charleston's so beautiful. That's why we have pyramids. It's slave labor that builds all this stuff. When you see that White House, it looks like that because you didn't fucking pay wages for that bitch to be built.
You didn't pay for that shit. Yo, as a police officer, man, what were some of the things you experienced and saw, particularly with regard to brutality and injustices of being a cop?
Sure. So the brutality aspect comes in just them not treating people as being human and thinking like there's some kind of personal slight. Like they take a lot of things, like say you're going to arrest somebody and like they elbow you or trying to get away. And then this becomes like this big assault. So they beat the crap out of the guy, almost until he dies or something like that. I mean, I've had junkies elbow me in the face when I was trying to arrest them. Guess what? I popped out of an alley and grabbed somebody. Yeah. They're going to elbow me in the face. I totally get it. That shit happens.
But even in the heat of, like you talked about becoming a police officer because of the adrenaline and the rush. So in the heat of like the scuffle or the whole line, do you yourself lose it?
No, I mean, I didn't.
Right.
I mean, it's a job. Like that's the thing. I think it becomes when you internalize it and you take it as personal slights that they kind of get a little bit more aggressive and lash out. And if you are cowardly and that's the only way you can prove yourself is through that power, then a lot of people do. I mean, most cops are pussies, dude. We all know this.
Most cops are pussies.
Why is it that the police force is full of pussies? I don't understand. Like where?
Because that's how they get their power.
But where is the when you hire who like I don't understand when you fill out your application to be a cop or whatever and you go through your training and someone's got to hire you. Why is it that it's okay for these types of people, these cowardless people, these people that will rather shoot somebody and kill them than analyze the situation
or tackle them?
You know what I'm saying? Why is it that these people are the ones getting hired to be cops that are supposed to protect and serve? And I just don't get it. Like, why aren't you hiring people with courage, people who have sense, people who can realize and de-escalate a situation rather than someone ending up dead?
Yeah. I mean, I think it goes two ways. Is you have a self-selection process and who tries to and actually applies for the job, but then you have the culture. They just did there was a study I just found the other day, and I couldn't believe it was real, that they studied and realized that people go into the academy with more integrity than they graduated. So the actual going,
how what happens?
Because you get exposed to everything. You start getting exposed to the culture, that us versus them, and always winning and never being able to back up. So like the policing starts to teach you that there's a gray area, and there really isn't supposed to be any gray area in policing. It's always supposed to be that the citizen is right. You're not supposed to have that gray area. And then there's a lot of unintentional things, like they do a polygraph. And a polygraph is a fucking terrible idea for hiring police officers or drug things. It's a terrible idea to not have cops have drug tests. So I'll explain the polygraph for you why it's bad. Is so the polygraph makes it so it measures anxiety, right? So you get people that fail the polygraph. Two people fail the polygraph. Those who lie and are anxious, and those who are fucking anxious because they feel guilty about everything they've done bad in their entire life.
So they carry that anxiety into the test.
So you eliminate the people who are really, really bad, and that's good, but and show it. And you eliminate the people who did some things but feel really guilty about it, and they learned from it. That's somebody you do want, right? So you eliminated that group already. So
and then you probably fucking have these heartless monsters of people that are not even thinking that what they're talking about is fucking immoral, and they fucking pass the test.
Okay, so that's the group that passes. Is you have the group that passes is the group that can lie and has done a lot of shit.
The sociopath.
Like you.
Hey, don't call me a sociopath. I trained and learned how to pass it, okay?
You trained to learn how to pass it?
Yeah, you can pass it. You can train.
Yeah, you can. You can.
So you fucking trained and passed
to control your anxiety. Okay, right. So and then you get the people who have never done shit, so have no reason to be anxious. And that's
Right.
the last person you want on the streets, is somebody that has no clue what the streets are like, because they're afraid of fucking everything.
Everything, yeah.
Right? So you want somebody that's comfortable and feels bad about it, but you already eliminated all that.
Right.
So you get stuck. Your best cops are the ones who were able to lie and get through, but aren't really bad people.
Right. That's crazy. So the pool
Mhm.
the pool is fucking useless.
And who wants to take a job to put people in a prison cell? You
Right.
know, like that takes a certain mentality anyway. I mean, like you can look at me and Al can look at me and say that, but like I just didn't think of putting them in a prison cell. I thought it was a fucking chase. That's all they showing cops as a chase, you know?
you know that's fucking white privilege when you join
Right,
the police department to fucking have fun.
Yeah, I mean, what is privilege is not acknowledging it, right?
Yeah.
You know, not having to think about it.
So you start seeing things like what, man? Like what are the things you start seeing in terms of like specific things? You talked about
Well, when you say what I see and recognize, I was only seeing and recognizing internal issues at
Right.
the time.
Right.
I didn't really process what we were doing. So when I saw, a cop smack some woman for no reason because she just talked shit to him, like I just thought that dude's an asshole. But like if that was your brother, you're not gonna say shit about it.
Yeah, it's like, dude, like after at all. So you see somebody doing some fucked up shit
Yeah, I mean,
on the force,
you yell at them,
Yeah.
and you kind of get checked.
but
then,
you can't yell at them.
Well, I've done it, you
Okay.
know, but once you have to have enough rank and enough power
Right.
to really make an issue out of it, but you still can't snitch because, like, it's the cops that are saying, the stop snitching mentality, and there's no group of stronger not snitchers
Cops are
than
the
the
best.
fucking cops.
Cops are the best non-snitches, right?
Right. And so it's these kind of little corrupt things, too. Like,
Wait. How do you learn the whole non-snitching thing? Like, is there like this? Do they drill?
It's
that
not
in?
even an option,
Right.
like because there's no enforcement mechanism either. So even if you are somebody that comes out, like one of Joey Crystal is a Baltimore cop who testified against other cops beating somebody up, and he got ran out of the agency, his career's ruined, and that's what happens every single time
Right.
that somebody does that. So there's no infrastructure.
It's not worth it.
Yeah, I mean, totally, because you're asking somebody to give up millions of dollars
Right.
because it's their career, it's their pension. They'll never get a job in law enforcement again. And
They
so,
got to start over.
yeah, totally. And they have kids, Sometimes they're invested by the time you're starting to put the puzzles together, you're 8-10 years in.
Yeah, you got kids in college. You got
Right.
the mortgage, the whole nine. So, but as you're seeing things and you're realizing that, wait a minute, this guy's not an asshole. This is the culture, right?
Mhm.
This is the culture of the force. Like we're protected by this what is it, the shield, like the blue, what do you?
Well, you are, but you're protected even more so in the laws and by what your mayors and command staff are going to do than you actually are by other cops. Because the thing is, even if cops get together and snitch, like they'll be crushed by the mayors in these systems because the mayors would be getting embarrassed. There was a chief in Wacomico County in Maryland who was a black chief in a white neighborhood who did all these progressive reforms and did all this good stuff, and they fucking politicians crushed his ass.
Because he was speaking out against.
And he was doing good things and actually succeeding with it.
Is that also what's going on in Baltimore right now with the district attorney, Marilyn Mosby, who really spoke out and tried, she prosecuted the cops.
Oh yeah, I know.
And now
it's almost like she that was like a false hope for us, almost
Really?
like because we thought she was doing it for the right reasons.
Well, why was she doing it?
We don't know, but now it looks like these cases were handled to a level of ineptitude that I don't believe she has.
Right.
So it was just like they weren't really trying to get through. She wasn't really pushing the right issues. Because the thing with that is you realize with Freddie Gray, the officers being in charge there, like we put a man in a metal box for no reason, bring him out dead, and they say no one's responsible. And the court case says the officers aren't criminally responsible. And for some of that reasoning, I get that. But that means that their commanders are for sure responsible.
Right.
But no, she doesn't even pursue that line. I was volunteering to be an extra testimony because I wrote my first step was theming your own professional, so I wrote an entire book on how you can fight the good old boy network, get promoted within the system. I was training people to do all those things, and in those books, it says not to do all these things. It says the seatbelt people, because that was not only was it policy, it was the fucking law.
Right.
So it's like, yeah, we seatbelt everybody. What the hell are you talking about? But they allowed it to get covered up in that manner by not even pursuing it. I don't understand that.
No, but even the fact that they're punishing her right now by allowing the cops to sue her personally. Is that crazy?
I mean, I don't think that's going to go anywhere.
Right, but it's still I'm sure she's having some stressful nights, dude.
Yeah.
If that conversation is even happening.
Yeah, but it's politics, and who the hell even knows what these things mean, because you have these unions and the prosecutors and their teams now, so the chief and Marilyn Mosby are making these announcements of doing, more enforcement actions and hiring more cops together, while the union is suing her, and it's all this back and forth politics, and who knows what any of this shit actually means.
So what you're saying, man, is basically we're fucked.
Yeah, I think we need a complete revolution, because we have to destroy those three things. Everybody wants to form policing without changing those three things of what policing fundamentally is. So it doesn't matter if you say, okay, well, we're gonna have cops that are from the neighborhood. Well, if you take cops that are from the neighborhood and you incentivize them to be brutal on their own people, guess what? They're just human beings. They're gonna do the same goddamn thing everybody else does. So you have to change that system and tear it down.
Michael, you retired because of an injury, right?
Yeah, I was forced out.
And June 15th, 2015, you decide to shock the world and you tweet that you're going to start talking about the injustices of the police department. Why?
Freddie Gray.
Had you been fine? Like, had you conscious about what you witnessed and were you fine?
No, it was the final straw.
So
really
talk about that evolution, man.
So, with Black Lives Matter coming up, I kind of saw the beginning with Trayvon and see, kind of sowed the seeds.
So you see the Trayvon thing.
Yeah. That
and what does that do to you?
Well, Trayvon back in the day, you're kind of looking at it, and it's just like, to us, it was like, this is all fucked up. Like, we don't know what happened, but this shit clearly, like, doesn't seem right.
He's a kid.
And is indicative of a broader society.
Right.
And I think white America was just like, oh, we don't know what's going on with that. And that's fine. And
he's
Brown,
he's not white anyway. He's Latino, so...
Right.
That's a simple fucking type of reasoning.
And then you have Mike Brown being killed, and that was a little more ambiguous. But the point of it being ambiguous is the reason it's ambiguous is because that fucking prosecutor criminally covered up the whole goddamn thing, so we could never know the truth. Right. So that's why everybody's like, oh, we don't know what happens there. Yeah, that's the fucking problem.
You're not supposed to know what happened.
Right. They made it so we don't know what happened. And then when Tamir was killed, like my world fell apart watching that video. Like everything coalesces in the evilness of America when you watch a 12-year-old boy get murdered, and
it takes you back.
A fucking city.
Does it take you back to being a cop?
Hell yeah, and it's just like, because that's what we were responsible for. That's what our career was. Like nothing. Like that's everything coming together wrong. Like there's no way we lead up to that situation, and then to see a city and a union and a whole fucking police department like cover it up and say there's nothing wrong, and prosecutors not pursue it, the entire system. It's like, fuck, but I still kept up this thing where it wasn't me. It wasn't my people. This was still a foreign thing. And then when Freddie Gray was killed, and
this is your hometown.
Right, and I watched, I saw our union. I'm still a member of the union because I still want to, one of those days where I get locked up, I want to be like, well, where's the union lawyers helping me? But anyway, that's a long-term plan. Yeah. And so I saw them, people I knew, my agency standing up and saying nothing was wrong with taking a man, putting him in a metal box for no fucking crime, and then pulling him out dead, and no one is fucking accountable. This isn't a tragedy in what would happen and a complete failure of our system. And I was like, man, fuck that. So I just said, like, I felt like immoral imperative.
So you snapped in a sense, in a good way. This is one of the things that I question, man. I talked about it in a recent episode of the Combat Jack Show. I watched the phenomenal documentary, I'm Not Your Negro, by Raoul Peck, based on James Baldwin. And I was blown away by the breadth and scope of humanity he had, because as much as, United States were in turmoil, particularly in the 60s and the early 70s, he still saw racism not as a black and white issue, but like as an American issue. And he was like, if we don't get this shit together, it's going to destroy all of us, right? But from my perspective, white America does have the privilege of saying that is not my problem. So what is, like as a white man descending or ascending into a higher sense of consciousness, like how do you do that? Because it seems so rare to me.
I don't know. I don't feel like I actually did that. I mean, you're not aware of your progression,
right,
as it happens. It all feels natural as the time goes on. But I mean, it's just kind of, if you just empathize with somebody else and think about those shoes, like to white America, that's a bunch of Muslims with the head wraps on and coming down their street with Humvees and locking up their children. Like, if that shit was
It's a bunch
happening
of
in
Mexicans
your neighborhood,
that are climbing the wall and stealing our jobs.
right?
It's a bunch of blacks that they just can't get their shit together, and they're fucking dangerous with Tyrone and Lee. Like, it's so we're all dehumanized,
Right, and we keep
in
dehumanizing
a
these
white.
things. But I thought, like, especially like with Tamir, like, so
Right.
just think about that. Like, we, like, the community, Cleveland didn't burn that bitch down, and we want to paint the black community as violent.
Right.
And come on, I'm gonna tell you right now, you kill my daughter like that, I'm gonna burn this bitch down, and I'm one dude.
Yeah. I
You
mean,
know,
you're also a trained Marine too. So,
but I mean,
so you're gonna lick off some shots too.
how can somebody not though? Like,
Right.
how could I don't understand how you can not empathize with
So how are
somebody.
they not able to empathize?
They don't
especially
watch, dude.
when it's so clear.
Because when you're privileged, equality feels like loss.
Yeah, I mean, in this day and age where everything is caught on film, and we fucking play that shit over and over and over again. You're looking at Tamir Rice, and I know we get desensitized, but how do you? I don't understand how these walls could still keep you. So
It doesn't touch them, man. They don't understand what a stop and frisk does to you. And so
it really is completely two separate worlds.
it's definitely two separate worlds. I mean, even in these cities,
Right.
like Baltimore is complete. Washington is literally the fucking other side of the tracks.
Right.
And you can stand on the bridge and
Yo,
look
when I
one way
went
and
to
look the
DC
other way.
For the first time, I was like, "What the hell is this?" The hood is literally right there.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
or literally,
Yeah.
you could throw
Cross
a
over the
rock,
tracks.
Throw a rock. And you do
Right.
it.
So you start talking about the things that you witness and experience in the Baltimore Police Department. What's the response you get from fellow members of the force?
I'm a traitor.
Yeah.
You know, I don't get pushback that they're, I think they get a lot of the points, and that makes it even harder for them. So, like, they kind of, not only am I a traitor, but the shit I say makes them have to deal with themselves and their own actions. And I think people don't want to face that accountability. So it's easy to be ignorant of it. So then you don't have to do anything.
Do these cops know? Are they cognizant that they're doing some fucked up
It's
shit?
slowly. It's slowly getting there. I think we're reaching. So even though it seems like we can feel like, oh, we're fucking not getting anywhere. It's not getting worse. How the fuck do these people believe that way? But it's really improving. There are definitely a lot of millennials that are pushing their grandparents to wake up and see the world for what it is. Because we have to realize that no matter what happens, this is not marginalized community or oppressed community's problem. This is a white problem.
Yes.
And it's our responsibility to fix this. We have to fight with one another to create a system where we understand that, and if you're genetically superior, well, then give everybody advantages, bitch, because you were born with the genetic ones, right?
Yeah,
Thank
exactly. Yo, I like that, man. What is the mentality behind? And I gotta say this: making a mockery of Black Lives Matter by creating Blue Lives Matter. What is the psychology of that? I mean, as an ex-cop, man, what is that, man? Because to me, that's so fucking hurtful.
Yeah, I'm kind of guessing that. I mean, I don't know. I mean, to me, it's quite
There's no-
obvious. There's no such thing as a blue life. It's a
Right.
fucking job. Like I
mean,
don't
there's-
know.
Yeah, exactly.
It's about what you're bored with. Is discrimination,
Right.
not what job you choose. But
Right. So it's silly from its premise.
yeah, I mean, it's irrational. But you don't see a lot of cops doing that, and they don't even mean Blue Lives Matter. Okay, so I like to break it down. There's been a bunch of black cops that were killed by other cops, whether it's black or white
Yes.
cops, that were off duty because they were trying to do an act, and they automatically presume that the black guy with a gun is the enemy, and it ends up being the cop that was doing the right thing. So, but you never hear Blue Lives Matter speaking up for that, where
Right.
the intersection of Black Lives Matter and Blue Lives Matter crosses. There is one, and there's a lot of examples, but they don't say Blue Lives Matter then, so they don't really mean Blue Lives Matter. They mean shut the fuck up.
Right.
Exactly. Did you hear about the Muslim woman who
New York cop, right?
The New York cop.
yeah,
Yeah.
and her I don't know what the correct terminology is,
Her hijab.
but the people, her co-workers, didn't do anything about her, and they were the ones who snatched her hijab off, beat her up, called her a Muslim bitch. And what happens to Blue Lives Matter then? You know what I'm saying? Where's Blue Lives Matter then when you're attacking a Muslim woman who is
A member of the force.
yes, a member of the force, and nobody's screaming Blue Lives Matter.
They don't mean it. It's just, I mean, what does all lives matter mean too? It just still means shut the fuck up.
It means shut the fuck up.
A way to
I'm glad you said that, man.
I mean, it is like, no, all lives matter. Well, if that you really meant that, then you would say Black Lives Matter. It's like all Kool-Aid matters. It's like somebody's like,
no, the red Kool-Aid really matters.
I thought it was the purple stuff, but
no,
anyway.
the red one.
It's like if you're like purple Kool-Aid matters, and they're like, no, all Kool-Aid matters. Like, then that means the fucking purple one does.
Exactly. Did you ever feel that your life was at risk, man?
Policing?
Yeah. No, I'm talking about after when you started speaking out.
Nah.
But I'm sure you were getting a lot of hateful.
I get death threats.
Right. You get death threats. It doesn't shake you? It doesn't move you? Like you don't.
Barking dogs ain't usually ones to be afraid of.
Right.
That's the one that doesn't say shit. So I mean, I don't worry about barking dogs.
Did you ever feel threatened in any way? Did anybody ever step to you? Like
no.
Because you are kind of you're kind of a celebrity right now in this world.
I still look for the fight. So,
yo, you're fucking
like I mean,
fucking white privilege.
Yeah, he's a crazy white boy.
Like I mean, if that's the thing, like people will tweet me,
right?
And I'll tweet out my fucking address.
Right.
I'm like, yo, I mean,
you've tweeted out your address.
Yeah, people have
my
my
wife
phone number.
Say, like, Michael, what the fuck are you doing?
Of course.
He'd be like, catch me outside.
But like I'm not hiding. Like
Right.
I'm a public figure. You don't have to talk shit on the internet. Like I post, I'll be at Towson University at 7:30 p.m. Like fucking show up.
Ready.
Like come put your money where your mouth is, and they never do. So there's not a legit.
Are you able to carry you carry your shit?
I could, but I don't.
Right.
I because I believe I'm not a gun advocate either.
Right.
So I carry a trauma kit because the answer is if you get shot and I had my gun and I shoot the person that shot you, I do shit to save your life.
Exactly.
So I carry a trauma kit now. Hopefully that motherfucker will run away, and then I can attend to you medically.
Right. You also talk about, and people don't give you enough credit. You also talk about how the police force, it's unjust against police officers. You people.
That's what I saw first.
Right. And how so? Like with regard to like the stats and like what'd you see?
The first thing that I saw was the promotional system.
Mm-hmm.
So Baltimore is a black city with a black police department, with a black mayor, black whole line chain of command. But the officers, when I started getting blackballed a little bit, and they kind of put me into different units. I was rebellious then too. And so I saw in the records that officers were about 50%, 60% black.
Right.
But then sergeants start getting lower, and then lieutenants got lower. And then each way up you got lower until they got to the top of the police department where they had their things that everybody saw, and they put in their house Negroes into those ones that were just as willing to execute white supremacy as anybody else is. Right. And that's how they balance out the top, making it look good. So it's like, well, what is this? Something's here. Like, why does this exist? And the reason is because there's a good old boy network in the promotional system where that old crew passes down the answers to the test. They did this in Chicago. They just got busted for this. The chief's wife just got promoted to lieutenant because the chief gave her the damn answers to the test. They get access to these things. And if they can't get the answers, they know like what ballpark they're going to be in because the books are huge. It's like a 4-foot stack of books that you have to learn everything in. And the test can come any questions out of anywhere.
Right.
So they kind of know
it's
where to
like the
look.
bar exam.
Right. So they know where to look ahead of time and things like that. So they give it to their little clubs. And sometimes it might be a black guy in that club, but you know what kind of black guy it is that's in that club.
Yeah.
And so that's how they got that promotional thing going. So I said, part of that, the fighting that was say, fuck this. I'm going to level the playing field because I was getting promoted and stuff on my own. I wasn't in the club, but I knew I was smart enough to document it out.
Right.
So the other supervisors helped cover some of my workload. And I wrote a whole book while I was taking the lieutenant's test to make sure I documented every bit of how you get through this promotional system so that it's completely out of the department's hands. The good old boy network is disempowered. Then I started teaching people, and then the next time we did a promotion cycle, 25 of the next batch of 50 sergeants were people that I had trained, and that was really my death sentence in the police department. I mean, that's way too much power for somebody like me to possess. So that's how we were addressing that. And then like another one is one of their ways to punish me was to sit me into medical. And when I was in the medical section,
What's the medical section?
So I was in charge of like all the injuries and tracking where everybody went.
Yeah.
Because in a huge department like that, you have hundreds and hundreds of people injured at any point in time. And so there was,
on the force,
right?
Yeah.
And so there was a black cop named Jermaine Cook, who was a narcotics detective that I had worked with, and he was a victim of a hate crime out in the county. These people were acting up.
Off duty.
Off duty. And he got out of his car, identified himself as police, showed his badge, so you guys can't be out here drinking like this. They dropped the N-bomb on him on the 911 call, hit him in the eye with a glass bottle, beat him up. The police from that jurisdiction arrest the guys. They're charged with a hate crime. They're convicted. All this other shit. And they want to push Jermaine out of the police department on a non-line of duty injury, saying he wasn't a cop because he didn't have his gun on him. Even though he fucking had his badge and he was doing everything honorable that he should have been.
He informed them.
Informed him. It's recorded. He did everything by the textbook, right? And then the deputy commissioner is trying to get me to push him out on non-line of duty, and I'm just arguing with it, not thinking much of it. And then at the next week, he's trying to tell me to cover up for one of his good old boy network guys, who was a white dude that came up with him, has 19 years on, is deaf from a non-line of duty injury, and he wants me to cover that up while I'm pushing Jermaine out. And it's like, man, fuck you. I'm not, like, you've lost your mind if you think I'm going to let this fly. So it's like little things like that pile up. Black cops are punished more. So even if they have equal offenses, it's just like in normal life, you still paint that black officer.
Black kids.
Right. It's the exact same thing.
Right.
So you'll have a white officer that commits one departmental violation and a black officer, and they will punish the black officer consistently worse than they do the white officer.
And does that explain also, like, and you talked about it also, I've heard you talk about it before, does that also explain why a lot of black cops tend to overcompensate when it comes down to how
I thought it was a personal slight.
Right.
So I've always thought that what happens is, especially, I don't know if this is a common thing in New York, but at least in Baltimore, African blacks are very different from American blacks.
Of course.
And we have a lot of African blacks in the department, so I saw them really exercise that they feel that the American blacks are lesser.
Insult. Yeah,
right.
Insult to them.
And other people thought, like, other black in the neighborhood would think that, like, the criminals were making the black race look bad, so they were extra aggressive towards it. And I could feel that because I might have been like that with white people, so I feel like that could be where that comes from.
Do you feel like that with Trump? Is the embarrassment to the...
I was on this European radio show the other day, and they were like, "We want to introduce Michael Wood, blah blah blah, the American." And I'm like, "Can you just say North America? Can I be like, I'm Canadian?" Like, and she's like, "No, you guys made your bed. You lie at it. Eat that up." Yeah, I'm embarrassed to be American, man.
Yeah, I mean, I got an excuse.
I mean, our poster now
being black, I'm like, we try.
But think about what happened. That poster now, it's white, black, orange.
Yeah.
Like, what happened?
No, black crown, like black clown. Yeah, man, it's crazy. So one of the things that you speak about, this whole empathy thing, man, and one of the things that moved me is when you said that you would see cops handling a black person a certain way, but you didn't even see them anymore as a black person. Not saying you were colorblind, but you saw them as your brother.
I mean, that's what we are.
Right. We're all related.
Right?
We are.
So, like, I mean, again, it becomes, being in the narcotics world, you end up getting these kids, these dealers that, the world, God, these are fucking kids, man. Like, the world paints them as some enemy, and they're fucking kids. And you get them in the room, and you talk to them when you're doing these interviews and interrogations, and it's just like there's zero fucking difference between this kid and me. Like, there's one Daniel Terra that always stands out to me, and I'm like, this kid is clearly a better kid than me.
What is he telling you?
He was just trying to survive. So
what was his crime?
He just selling the flower, selling weed. I like calling it a flower now. Some hippie kid told me that, and I was like, damn, you're right. It is just a flower,
it's just a flower, right?
Because it's actually not even the whole plant.
We're criminalizing people.
We'll call it a plant, or we'll call it green, but it's literally not the whole plant. It's just the flower bud.
Just the flower, which is crazy.
And people are doing years.
Right. So what he ended up doing a hell of a lot more than that. And he was just selling weed to survive because he was young, had a baby, wanted to make sure that he got things for the kid, and the girl lived out in the county, so he would have to have travel back and forth. His parents were poor. He didn't have any resources, kept locking him up. And eventually, we end up locking him up one time. We get jumped by the neighborhood, and he escapes. And escape is a crime of violence. So now he's a violent repeat.
Is a crime
considered a crime of violence.
Really?
And he never hurts a soul.
How is that?
I don't fucking know. They codified it. That's what they say.
Right.
So now he's a violent repeat offender, and like this kid, like everything that this kid did bad in life, I did hella worse than.
Of course.
And it was like the world's going to see this kid as an enemy, and it's like, no, like this is the good kid.
This is the good kid.
And so like, yeah, those are my brothers. They're no like, I don't understand. Like, they're better than me. Like, even the black communities, when we talk about like the violence thing, we paint black communities as being violent. But if you terrorized a white community like that,
they'd burn
they would burn.
They'd burn
if they lose the fucking game, they will burn that shit down.
Yeah.
Let alone something in life.
Yeah. Do you find, because when black people speak about issues like this, it's very easy for us to get ignored. Do you find more people are listening to you because you're white?
It's the only reason.
Right.
I'm not saying, like, so I got to these positions scholarly, and people will pop up and say, you sound like Malcolm, you sound like Martin, and I'll listen to an old video and I'll be like, oh shit, they did say that,
Right.
So I'm not saying anything new. I just arrived at those conclusions through research and practical application, not because I knew the history lessons.
Right.
And it's this is where we are. So the only reason anyone ever listened to me was because I was a pretty white boy who had a badge.
Right.
That's it. I'm not saying anything new. I'm providing perspective, but like D. Watkins is a writer in Baltimore who was a dealer, and reading his book like kind of gave me a lot of confidence, because I thought that, like, am I fucking seeing the world right? Like, I'm not crazy, right? Like,
but it's crazy though when you start seeing shit. I remember about 10 years ago, I was involved in a lawsuit with one of my employers, and based on race discrimination. But because race at that time, issues of race in New York was so covert, that even as a black man, I was like, I know it exists. But even when I talk to my peers, they're looking at me like I'm crazy. So am I crazy for seeing shit that I know exists, but you can't touch? I mean, now you could see it and touch it. So you felt crazy, like.
Sometimes, yeah. Like, am I the one that's nuts? And then I read D's book, which he has two of them. The B-side is the one I read the first time.
Right.
The one's called The Cook-Up. And it was him telling this pretty much the same story from the drug dealer side. And it was like, well, this is the same goddamn story. I'm not fucking crazy. The drug dealer's seeing the goddamn thing the exact same way. We're not the crazy ones. Y'all are. So, we kind of ended up being friends and uniting over these kind of causes. And I think a lot of us are starting to see it. The millennials aren't buying this shit, man.
Mm-hmm.
And as Gen Xers, we have to push the agenda and push the envelope. I view us as clearing the way for the millennials to come behind us and fix all this shit, because they're going to.
They have no choice.
Yeah.
They got no fucking choice, dude.
But they are. I mean, they already do that for the vast majority of the way already. I mean, you go ahead and try to find me 100 random below 30-year-olds who have these convoluted ideas of patriotism and capitalism. They all mostly socialists who fucking think that standing for the flag is dumb.
Yeah.
I don't stand for the flag, haven't stood for it for a decade.
And you fought for the flag. I mean, you fought for the flag.
I didn't fight.
I mean, you didn't
we don't fight for the flag. We fight for that dude next to us to come home alive. And then when you realize that your life and that dude's life are being put at risk for these bullshit reasons, like, you get offended. That's how, with the Dakota Access Pipeline, with Veterans Stand, my group, so that's why there's all these veterans stepping up and saying no, because we all see this. It's a bunch of veterans under 30. You keep creating veterans that are a bunch of progressives, you're going to create veterans that are going and want to fight and do something in the future.
Yeah, I was so happy when, that whole issue with Colin Kaepernick. And, just everyone saying that he was an insult to the troops that fought, and how many troops stood up and like, nah, he's doing what we fucking fought for.
We fought for his right to not stand up.
Yeah.
Like, I'll stand up for that thing, and if we do have justice for all and we do have level playing fields, I'll stand up, sure. But until then, you're full of shit.
Do you stand up, man?
No, I haven't stood up for a decade.
Yes.
My daughter doesn't stand up in school. And we explain why and say, sorry, this is the way it is. And I love when people give me dirty looks for not standing up. And it's like, I'm the actual veteran.
Yeah, yeah.
You don't think I'm disrespecting vets. That's just your ignorance.
I'm glad that you're taking your passion on a broader path, man, because what are you doing now with the Dakota Access Pipeline, man?
Well, right now we're doing our second GoFundMe. The first one.
And what's the name of your organization, man?
It's a Veterans Stand.
Veterans Stand.
Because it kind of started off with the idea of Veterans Stand for Standing Rock.
Right.
And then we realized quickly that the idea of what we stand for should always change, because we need to keep evolving to combat the next issue. So right now with, the Trumpian reality, we have a new GoFundMe. We have $180,000 in there right now. It's just been a week. We did $1 million in a couple weeks the first time. And now we have people up there kind of getting the infrastructure in place, because the biggest thing is when building platforms is it's not your fucking voice. right? So it's my voice, it's my face you'll see selling it, but once I'm there, I'm silent.
Right.
It's for the people that we're trying to serve. This is truly a service mission to put somebody out. So the next thing that everybody wants to do is Flint. And then if we can get enough money to go to Flint and replace some of the pipes there, then what you'll see is you'll see me on TV constantly, but as soon as we're there, you're going to see local voices. So when we bring the cameras, we turn those cameras to the voices that need to be heard, not the ones that keep talking, which is the white saviors that come in and say things like, oh, we need to build a new job facility. Well, you forgot the fucking no one can get to it. If you would have asked the neighborhoods, then you would have actually gotten the answers that you needed. So we want to ask the neighborhoods. We want to identify a place like Flint and say, what can we do? You tell us, and we'll figure out what that plan is and provide the resources to do it and be that enforcement wing.
Off air, man, you were saying how, with regard to the North, the Dakota access pipeline, how, just how many miles of pipe do they have to build?
Yeah, it was somewhere around 2,000 miles, and most of it is already built. So
Right.
even when they say about jobs, they say bring in jobs. You're literally taking jobs away because now all the truck drivers that were driving it, you're taking their jobs away. There's only like 14 permanent jobs for the whole pipeline
Right.
thing. So it's a direct example of privatizing the gains and socializing the losses.
Yeah, what's the danger of our government continuing to piss off vets, man?
I think it's quite clear, and I'm really shocked that they're even talking about the Dakota Access Pipeline again. Like, we got 4,000 people there in the middle of the goddamn winter in no man's land. Why would you dare ask me to do this again in the middle of summer? I'm perplexed by that concept because we are holding the vets back. Like, we have a roster of 4,000 now. But this is only because we're like, please don't flood our system. We're not even ready to handle how many vets there are. I'm quite confident that we would easily get 10,000 people up there. And I don't care what police force you think you have, 10,000 people can walk through it.
Yeah.
So we're going to win. And why would you push this issue? What are you going to do, protect 2,000 miles of pipeline? Like, I just don't understand why they're pushing this issue. It's really baffling.
One of the things that I question, man, is we see how, with regard to police officers, it's a brotherhood and they protect themselves, and they're also really, they're also at the mercy and the whim of their supervisors. They're just following out orders. But one of the things that scares me right now, man, is the way this guy is acting, and if he decides to have the military move in one way or another, is that going to be an issue, or
I don't think they'll do it.
Right. For the most part.
Yeah, I think for the cops and the National Guard and stuff, they can still marginalize and villainize Native Americans and black people in a Black Lives Matter rally, but the idea of thousands of veterans who are all mixed. I mean, the people that came with us came from every corner of the nation, and from if our demographics were like probably representative evenly of the country, so every group is there, every nationality, every geography is there. So it is a true uniting
right.
Towards the whole thing. It's not like this is some kind of piecemeal thing. This is a growing movement. They're still not understanding that like the whole even kind of Bernie thing is a burning underlying populist movement towards a more empathetic socialism populism, not the populism that Trump got away with.
Right. Yo, so how do we change this, man?
Well, I mean,
we got to burn this shit down, man.
So yeah, I think we do into a certain effect, and especially when it comes to local takeover of police departments and things like that. I think you do have to stand up hard enough, and maybe more uprising to get it through to these politicians that you get to control your police department, not them. You have to just finally say, stop saying how you will be police and tell the police how they're going to do their job, and that's going to take a takeover. Otherwise, I mean, I don't know. We got to wait for all the baby boomers to die.
So it's scary, man. It's some scary time. It's a scary time, huh?
I guess, but we always have to keep in perspective that we're uniting. This is the safest era in human history. This is the longest period of peace in human history. We are improving and we are uniting, and I don't think you're going to be able to play this game of pitting the races against one another. What are we doing? We're all just fucking each other anyways. Shit's going to be gone. You know, like
that's a fact. No, that is a fact. That's why I don't. That's one thing I also don't get. It's like white supremacists are still out here screaming white power, but it's like, yo, your daughter is fucking a black guy. You know what I'm
This
saying?
is all
Like,
over soon.
Your son's dating a Spanish girl. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, can you?
Sorry about that.
Your grandchildren are gonna be mixed babies, so you're over here white supremacy, but your white supremacy is getting like diluted. You know,
Yeah,
it's like,
done.
so who's gonna really? It's only you screaming this right now.
And why do you even fucking matter? You won't be here, right?
Well,
Like,
I mean, but that's how they feel their inadequacy, right? You know, I mean, does Trump have, like, really? Come on. Is that a little dick or a big dick? We know, right?
he's got little
Right,
hands.
right. So how do you get in that
He's got
situation?
little hands.
Right. Well, so,
He's got baby hands.
but we know, right?
Yeah.
Right. So we all know that's how you end up in that situation. Well, I mean, there's kind of that thing in whiteness as a whole that when it feels inadequate, it just goes to that whole extreme to kind of try and prove itself and to be the schoolyard bully is how it feels anyway. I can't speak for all white people,
Right.
but I mean that's what I observe.
How have you responded, man, when you felt inadequate in certain instances because of your whiteness? Because I'm sure you had to experience that on this journey.
Well, I mean, I've wholly convinced that the point of having privilege is to use it against the system.
Right.
And that's what I'm going to do every step of the way. One of the reasons that I'm finishing my PhD now is so I can have that check in the box. Because what are they going to do? They're going to say, "Well, you never served. You never police. You don't know. You didn't go to school. Yeah, of course you're school against me now. So that'd be another one too. I'm only liberal because I went to school or something like that. But facts and shit like that. But whatever. It's you just keep checking all the box, using all that privilege they give you, and then turn that shit on them. That's what our generation should be doing with our whiteness, is using it as a weapon.
Yo, dude, are you going into politics?
People ask me that all the time. Maybe I will one day, but I think this can be bigger. I really want to make us synonymous with the ACLU or something like that. Like, the ACLU lawyers come in and you're ready for the ACLU lawyers come in. But I also want you to be afraid that when you step on some people's toes, that there's going to be thousands of Marines that are going to get there any single day too, with those ACLU. Thank you. Lawyers behind them to make sure that everything is good.
Guns and lawyers.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? But we don't need the guns, though. We're there is to be peaceful. We want to be beaten and be the representative, because that's the whole thing is, like, if we encapsulate what patriotism is, then what visual is it that you are going to pay state-sanctioned agents to beat patriotism down?
You know, it's interesting, man. We had Angela Rye on the Combat Jack show a couple of weeks ago, and she really changed my perspective in terms of, you know, I haven't always been proud to be an American, and I still wrestle with that.
Fucking terribly not proud, but
No,
I'm sure
but-
you're going to give me a reason why we should be.
But I'm going through this thing right now where you know, just the fact that seeing people stand up, you know what I mean? Seeing people risk a lot for what they're risking right now. I am kind of proud in terms of how people are fighting, man. You know what I
I'm
mean?
certainly proud of us and what we've done, and maybe this is the more of the original Americans,
Right.
because, I mean, that's the thing, too, is, like, even white people, when they talk about protesting, like, that's this country formed from a revolutionary war where Britain would have definitely called us terrorists. Right. So, I mean, like, one man's terrorist is always another man's freedom fighter, and, you know, we maybe are that original Americans now that are standing up against the king and queen, the oligarchy.
Yeah. So, Michael, what's next for you, man?
Continuing this veteran stand, moving to LA, diving in 100%.
Moving to LA, huh?
Yeah, doing the LA thing and diving into the media, because that was our two variables, is the strong social media presence. And so if the strong social media presence and hitting the media is what got us $1 million to go help and get the Lakota Sioux's voice elevated and get media attention on them, then I need to dive in 100%. I feel like there's a moral responsibility to dive in 100% to that and continue to see if we can build upon that. If I fail, well, then so what? I failed, but I'm going to give it 100%. And hope that it doesn't.
You're moving to Hollywood, though, man, right?
I mean,
Close to Hollywood, right?
That's what we got to do, right?
And you're a handsome dude, man.
Yeah,
You got Hollywood in the future, man.
I don't think so, because I'm really annoyed when media fucking gives a shit what somebody that plays pretend on TV thinks about a fucking issue. Like, I don't understand that. Ask somebody that actually knows something about an issue, not somebody that pretended to play about that issue on TV. So I kind of have an animosity towards Hollywood. Maybe I don't think I could see myself doing that, and I have to be more on the ground.
Unless the check was,
yeah. Let's be honest. So if I can get enough money, I will. I will sell out to get money for this mission.
I'm sorry, say that again, man.
No. I mean, I'll sell out to get money for this mission. I got no problem. Like, if Bank of America wants to give me $500 million a year to make sure I run this thing, well, that shit, I'll take your money. I'll tell you to fuck off in the same movement with your shit, but I'll put your logo on there and keep it moving, you know? So if Hollywood wants to do that, we can do the same thing.
There you go. Where can our audience find you, man?
I mean, I'm going to steer everybody towards Veteran Stand, so www.veterans-stand.org, and you can get a hold of me through there. I have a strong Twitter thing, so I guess we can go that way too, which would be at Michael A. Wood Jr., and you'll see me getting my Twitter beefs with people and be authentic, because I think being authentic is important as much as people will yell at me for being overly authentic and attacking trolls. Whatever, man. They deserve to be attacked.
There you go, man. Well, thanks for stopping by, man. I wish you the best, man, particularly since you're uprooted and going out west, man.
And, you know, the East Coast is a battle, and you know it. It's a
I'm
grimy,
done with the East Coast,
doggy
man.
dog. I can't handle it.
I'm done with the East Coast. I mean, I'm not ready to move yet, but this shit is just so hard out here.
It
man.
is brutal.
It's
you know?
brutal.
We
man.
fight on one another.
You got to be rich to be poor in New York, man.
Mm-hmm. It's true.
You know what I'm saying? Anyway, listen, Michael. Once again, man, thank you for coming through.
brother.
Man. Yo, King, what's up, man?
It's very dope, man. I mean, it's good to hear perspectives, other perspectives, and philosophies in this time, man. It's like it's good to know that this brother's doing what he can to protect our future.
Yeah,
That's what it's about, right?
It's all about protecting our future, because everything that they're doing right now, it seems as they're trying to take away from our future.
Yeah,
and that's the scariest thing. It's like, how do you, like, once again, I don't want to go into it, man, but just the situation with education,
right?
The situation with our environment.
Mm.
How can you not believe in climate control? How can you, you know what I'm saying?
Like
climate change. Climate change. How can you not, how can you go into other people's land and fuck with their water? Say, how can we fucking turn our back on Flint, Michigan, where the EPA is saying that now the fucking water is lead free? Like, you fucking drink that shit. You fucking go drink that shit if it's so fucking clean.
They want to destroy.
Like Michael just said, it's like it takes a 22 year cycle for lead to really affect the next generation. And these motherfuckers are burning the future generation across the fucking board, B.
And I feel like, even on the environmental situation, like, I think we've came a long way in the last decade. Even after the Al Gore situation, he raised awareness about what's going on with global climate change, and
see these.
And then now we're regressing. It's like, little things like recycling. You know what I mean? And we were on track, and now
are they fucking with recycling?
No, I'm just saying, like, that's where we got to that point. It was like, all right, yeah, we're all doing it, right? We're all conscious of it, the little things, and now it's like coal, like we doing the coal mining.
That's a good point, man. That's a good point.
The effect of whatever decisions is now, this 10, 20 years, and it's like we got to go reset again when we was already coming out of that shit.
I don't wish any harm on anybody, but I wish everybody in the administration gets some ass cancer, man. And let's end it like that, man. Internets, you know what it is, man.
Wait.
But
R.I.P. Devil in the Blue.
R.I.P. Devil in the Blue, Joyce, right? You know
yes.
what I'm saying? For supporting us for so many years.
Free Tax Stone, man.
Free Tax Stone.
Yes, sir.
I was supposed to go on Tax Stone right before he got locked up. I was like, oh, man.
Man, that would have been ill.
Salute,
man. Salute, Free to Stone. Internets, you know what it is, man. Dream those dreams and then man up, woman up, and live those dreams, because a life without dreams is black and white, and the universe flows in Technicolor and surround sound.
This episode of the Combat Jack Show is produced by Jonathan Mena, executive produced by A. King, and this is an official Loudspeakers Network production. I'm dead. I'm really mad y'all made me do that. I'm so mad right now. Please don't post that anywhere. I'm so mad at y'all. Bop, bop, bop.